Good afternoon, everybody, and you're all very welcome to this webinar of the Epidemic Science Leadership and Innovation Networks. Greetings from the Science for Africa Foundation, we are hosting this webinar. My name is Dr. Judy Omumbo, and I'm Head of Programs at the Science for Africa Foundation. So we're joined by our partners, MasterCard Foundation, to whom we owe a huge debt of gratitude for funding this initiative, and our partner at the Pandemic Science Institute at Oxford University. So who's the Science for Africa Foundation? We are a Pan-African organization, and we really see ourselves as a facilitator of the research ecosystem across the continent. Our vision is based on the premise that Africa's challenges will be addressed through science. And we want to put together the best science and the best scientists across the continent and innovators to make sure that we address the challenges to improve, to support a better future in a global world for the continent. So our mission is to catalyze and strengthen science and innovation so that it responds to Africa's sustainable development needs. And with that in mind, we're really very keen to always look at what is emerging as a challenge for Africa. And for this call, we are looking at pandemics and building the capacity for pandemics across the continent so that we as a continent are able to be resilient in the future in the face of pandemics, and looking at them, making sure that we're using the learnings that we got, for example, from the COVID pandemic to make sure that we have a better ecosystem for pandemic resilience and prevention across the continent.
Hello, everyone. My name is Professor Peter Horby. I am Director of the Pandemic Sciences Institute at the University of Oxford. And I'm delighted that we are partnering with the MasterCard Foundation and the Science Foundation for Africa with this exciting new call. And we're very grateful to the generous gift of the MasterCard Foundation for making this possible. Just to let you all know that the webinar is being recorded and hopefully will be available for people to look at again later if they need to. And because of the large number of participants, we'll accept questions by chat, but we won't be asking people to give verbal questions. And so we will be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will answer them. Some background: the Pandemic Sciences Institute is a multidisciplinary research institute at the University of Oxford, hosted within the Department of Medicine, but it is multidisciplinary. So we have basic science, we have clinical, vaccine and diagnostic science, and we have behavioral, social sciences and history. So we're really trying to bring all the disciplines together to tackle global health challenges like the COVID pandemic. Our broad vision is to help build a world where people and societies are better protected from infectious diseases. And our mission is to be very translational, to discover, create and enable practical solutions to infectious disease threats worldwide, but with a particular focus on equity of access to those products and tools, etc. So we have in our missions 3 areas of discover, create, enable. Discover is basic science. Create is around creating practical tools, diagnostics, drugs, vaccines, and public health interventions. And enable is about working with the communities, politicians, societies, civil society to make sure that those interventions are suitable, applicable, and available. And then in the center of the graphic on the bottom left, we have 2 sort of cross-cutting themes around people, encouraging inclusivity and diversity, and partnership. So infectious diseases, and particularly epidemic and pandemic diseases, do not respect borders, and we can tackle these only effectively as a global partnership. And so that's what we're aiming to do. And so this is why we're very excited about this initiative of partnering with SFA, and hopefully many of you on the call today, to strengthen the global ecosystem, to both improve health in the everyday scenarios, but also to protect against future health security threats. So I'll just give some background about the objectives of the EPSILONs, the Epidemic Science Leadership and Innovation Networks, that were co-created with MasterCard Foundation and Science Foundation Africa and the Pandemic Sciences Institute. The vision really is to be a vehicle for increasing investment in world-class research and innovation on the African continent, with African leadership of that program, to bring together scientists, policymakers and healthcare leaders in Africa to develop research preparedness and response that will be a global leadership, not just on the continent, and to enable dignified and sustainable careers in the life sciences sector across the continent. So we're looking at developing the life sciences sector with dignified, sustainable careers, improving health through research that has relevance and impact day to day, but also to safeguard future health and socioeconomic development on the continent by preparedness for future health threats. So the mission is to develop a diverse and Africa-led consortium directed through bold and innovative research programs, but through that program of research to strengthen communities of practice and long-term collaboration, both for everyday health needs and for future health threats. There will also be a parallel piece of work around policy engagement, so engagement between scientists and policymakers that will engage with the Epsilon networks that are awarded but will be separately funded. So the key points, so the Epsilons, you will hear more about the details later, but the key points is that each Epsilon will be awarded up to 4 million in core funding, plus there will be an additional up to 1.2 million of additional budget for specific activities around capacity development and catalyzing innovation, which you will hear more about. The conditional awards will be announced in about a year, 31st of October, by 31st of October next year, with the Epsilons to start functioning in early 2025. And the program duration is estimated, we're looking at 5 to 6 years. You will hear next about the thematic areas we'd like to receive applications, but they are going to be fairly broad, and we will, consider fairly broad-ranging applications as long as they have an element of one of the themes that we will hear about next. So I'll pass back to Judy to take you through the key thematic areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Horby. So we're looking at diversity across many areas, and really keen to have a good footprint across the continent, across Africa, of the research that is being done in this area. But for this webinar, we're just going to focus on the thematic areas. And as you have seen from the core guidelines, there are 7 areas that we're interested in receiving research proposals on. Now, there is a question in the chat on whether one must focus on one area or whether they may focus on a combination of different areas. And the response to that is that, yes, you need to make sure that you are focusing on at least on one of these areas as a primary area, but you have research that crosses between, for example, vaccinology and public health policy research. So it is possible to do several different things. One needs to be quite careful not to make the proposal too heavy and make sure that these are areas that you could deliver on, and that there are good research, compelling research questions in each of the thematic areas. So just to list them again, the vaccinology thematic area will be looking at early stage vaccine research. Virology, really the lab work around genotyping and phenotypes. Clinical research and clinical trials. This is around the epidemiology work for pandemics and epidemics. We're very keen to see some work around policy, how we can link research to policy and the best way to do that, creative ways to look at that. Again, for pandemic prevention, looking at the area of biodiversity and climate change, the discussions about how there are crossover infections from other species as the human population moves into areas that are formerly occupied by species that we have not interacted with in the past. Advanced data assembly and analytics, data is really important, and we're looking for really high-level data at population level, even at lab level, on pandemics and epidemics. And because we are interested in studying people, it's important to have elements of research on social and behavioral sciences. There are many questions that have come from previous pandemics on how people managed to socialize or not socialize. You know, what were the benefits of lockdowns and so on and so forth. And many of these questions can be asked through good research questions on social and behavioral sciences. We would encourage you very much to have a keen look at the theory of change. We've been receiving many questions about the eligibility of different areas of research. We're very keen, if you focus on the top layers, the outcomes of within the theory of change, to make sure that your research question is compelling and ultimately addresses the outcomes of within the theory of change. So we're keen to build an increased health resilience and well-being for the population across Africa. And with that in mind, all research that addresses those issues, the prevention, resilience, understanding the pathogenesis of pandemics and epidemics, and also population level issues around public health, as well as where these pandemics are emerging from. So do have a look at I cannot emphasize that enough, the theory of change. If you have questions concerning your selected research area.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This next 3 slides will be talking about your online application. My name is Susan Kishoga. I'm a senior grants officer, as well as an acting manager program support office here at Science for Africa Foundation. I received many of your queries on the epsilon@science.africa for Africa.foundation, and I'm just going to give you an overview of some of the areas that have been highlighted via your questions, and some of the areas that will be sticky going forward if you don't manage them well. So for the online application, you need to register a portal. We shall not be receiving any offline applications. So make sure that you scroll down until the end of the data privacy policy on the portal. And once you submit that, then you are able to register your portal, and you will register your details as well. And to select a country on the application itself or on the registration portal, you just type the first 3 letters of the country and then select from the drop-down menu. If you type in the entire country, the system will flag an error. So this is one of the tips that will help you to navigate that. Sorry. So then on the validated and validated organizations, we are receiving queries about that as well. What validation means is that we do not have your system, we do not have your institution in our system, and the system would like to ensure that that organization is captured, just in case the application proceeds to the next level. Then that will be the grant receiving organization. So then the details need to be correct right from the beginning. And some of the reasons why your organization may not validate is because either you have made a mistake with the spelling. Probably you've interchanged some of the words in university, or some of the you have added other words after the name of the university itself. But we usually validate once the system flags. Also on our side, it flags also on our side. So we are doing that every week, validating unvalidated organizations. But you can still write to us if that's a problem. But the other thing that you could do is make sure that when you type in your organization, if it has been already in the system, just pick it up. Don't add too many dimensions to the name. Probably just if it's University of Nairobi, pick it up. Probably don't add College of Science or College of Humanities, because that will now, it will pick up as a different organization. Then the CV template, it's downloadable on the application form. Just download it on field number 7. We would want a standard format for this CV for the lead applicant. So please use only that particular template and let it not be more than 10 pages. Upload it as a PDF. It will not upload as Word. Support letters from the lead institution should be very specific about the details to be provided. Don't pass on generic letters or letters that are just 2 words, I support, and then a signature. Give us at least some tangible details that we'll be able to pick up during the review stage. Let the letter also be on letterhead and signed by an approver in your organization. The submission deadline is 31st of January 2024, not 2023, at 5 hours, 1700 hours, so that's 5 p.m. East African time. Please note the time zone, East Africa time. It's not time zone, not your particular time zone if you're outside this zone. So there are many questions about consortium formation, and we are using the hub and spoke model where there's a lead with various partners affiliated to the lead. There are 5, we would like at least 5 partners and 1 lead. The minimum you can have a consortia for, or minimum institutions in a consortia would be 3 African partners. There have to be at least 3 African partners if to form a consortium. The other thing to note is that in terms of diversity, which you will find in the call guideline, you can do the diversity per country. You can diversify the countries. Have the lead in one country and the partners in different countries. You can also diversify by thematic theme. Judy has just talked about the transdisciplinarity of the applications. So this can be in different spokes and in different institutions with strengths in different thematic areas. Or you can just balance according to gender or career stage or resources or access, but making sure that the geographic diversity is also maintained. So here are some common questions about consortia formation. How many partners can we have? 3 to 5 partners, and to make a total of 5 to 6 institutions, including the lead institution. Then is it possible to select different partner institutions from one country? Technically, this is possible, but it has to have a clear rationale. The diversity measures will attract more weight during the review stage. So just encouraging you to be more diverse in terms of partner institutions and also geography. Then can institutions outside Africa apply as a lead? The answer is a no. If you read the eligibility criteria, both for the institution and for the lead applicant, you'll see the Africa-centric way that this consortia formation is being presented. So the only Africans based in Africa can apply as a lead, which means that you have to be a national of a country in Africa and you should be working in an institution based in Africa. And for you to get a more comprehensive eligibility criteria, just refer to the call guidelines, and there are 3 eligibility areas, which is the applicant, the institution, and the consortium eligibility standards. Is network the same as consortium? Yes, these are synonyms. They've been used in different parts of the call guideline, but they mean the same. Do we need to have an MOU or an agreement to prove that we're a consortium? We do not need that at this stage, but we cannot tell if that will be necessary for the full application. So we do not want to tell you no for all the stages. But at the same time, then, if you need an MOU or an agreement for your own internal dynamics as a consortium, that is up to you, and you can have it at any point of time in your consortia formation timeline. And then at the same time, the full application, we will need letters of support from the partner institutions, and that will be provided in the application template. I wanted to show you how the consortia formation will appears on the application template, but I think Judy, probably you'll give me another chance so that I don't spoil the rhythm of these slides. But it's good to know that some of the things that will make you ineligible lie in that page, the consortia application page, especially because you are inviting partners from other institutions, and the system will invite them automatically once you select the people you want to select. And before you submit your application, your collaborator or your co-applicant, not your collaborator, sorry, your co-applicant, because I don't want to use collaborator and co-applicant as synonyms. Those are not synonyms. You will check the definitions in the call guidelines. The co-applicant is the one that is doing the specific work package. So the system will, once you choose a co-applicant by name, they will send them an invitation. And if they do not respond to that invitation before the deadline, you cannot submit the application. So it's just a plea to start early with the identification of your partners, and also ask them to keep checking the invitation from the system so that you do not miss the deadline. So Judy, if possible, I can show the page after we are through with the slides. Thank you. I invite my colleague Hannah Ngugi to take us through the budgets. Hannah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Susan, and good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Based on where you are, my name is Hannah Ngugi. I work at Science for Africa Foundation as Head of Finance and Grants. We'll be taking you through the budget headings and the components that we have included in the budget. And in case you find any area that is not fully covered within the budget, different budget categories, then feel free to reach out to Susan through the information email that is given. So we have included a personnel line, and this we have given a breakdown of what we expect to see within the personnel, and these are the key staff that you require in managing the grant. We've given indicative positions that you should include. They are just indicative, and it's up to the team that is coming up with the budget to really determine the critical staff required to manage the grant. We have included what should be included there. It should be the basic salaries that you charge for the different positions, any fringe benefits that should be covered. And in addition, the fringe benefits should be covered within policy. And part of the challenge we'll be doing is to request for information that is supporting whatever costs that is put in the budget. Then materials and consumables, this really covers what you require to manage the grant in terms of the cost of the materials to do and undertake the research in full. And you can include in there a breakdown in the narrative. Every line has a narrative provided space where you can include what is the cost that you're going to include. We have also provided a link on the policy for materials and consumables. Please go through the policy so that you understand what is the breakdown for materials and consumables. In terms of equipment, we do expect the equipment that may be required for undertaking research and the useful life should be longer than 1 year. And again, we have provided a policy guideline to this. You should read the policy to see what the definitions of the equipment is and what our expectation in terms of how you cost this within the budget. We encourage you to put as much narrative information on the application itself so that it helps in reviewing and not coming back to ask questions and clarifications on the different line items that you're putting in. For travel, again, this is expected will include costs for ground transfers, where you're attending any meetings or your own internal meetings that you have planned within the consortium. Again, for any travel or workshops that SFA will be planning, those are covered separately, and we do not expect you to be budgeting for those within your budget. Those shall be covered under different budget lines. We expect you to cover costs for communication, and this to do with any branding. And again, our communication teams will be reaching out at later stage on the branding expectation, but we expect you to put in initiatives that would go towards communication costs that you would need within the lifetime of the grant. Office support costs, these are costs that will ensure you run smoothly all your operations. And these are the direct administrative costs for running the consortium. They're not limited to just office supplies or stationaries, but this can include costs like monitoring and evaluation, direct costs for utility bills. If you're renting space, this is where you would put such costs. And any costs, for example, for audits that are specific to this program or this grant, if that is required within the institution to undertake individual project-related audits, that's where you would put such costs. Please note these are direct program costs that are easily identifiable for managing the program. It should be clear that when you're doing the programs, the office support costs, they're not confused with what is mainly called the indirect costs. Those are very different from office support costs. And the next line is for the indirect costs. And these are the costs that are common within, for example, if you're hosted within an institution, and you're incurring costs that benefit common or joint objectives of an institution, this is where those costs will go. And we call them indirect in that sometimes it will be a percentage, sometimes if your institution doesn't have a policy on this, then we have given a guidance on how that will be done within the call proposal. For these grants, we are allowing a maximum of 10% in terms of what you can charge as indirect costs to the grant, and it's 10% of the direct costs. Beyond that, we are not able to go beyond the 10%, as that's what is the maximum that is allowable on this. And that's the reason why we have the line for office support cost, where if you have certain costs that fall within other categories that in essence cannot be held, or you can be able to directly attribute to the program, then you can charge them there. But we are not being able to go beyond 10% as an indirect cost. For inflation costs, for every year, since this is a 5-year grant, you can charge an inflationary cost year on, but this needs to be supported either within the institution from central finance office. They should be able to guide you on how to budget and include an inflationary cost. And where your central finance office is not able to do this, then you can use your central bank inflationary costs. And this should be supported as you undertake the budgeting process. If none is provided, then you can reach out to us and we can guide you on what rates to use in case you're not able to get any country-specific inflationary rate to use. For all the direct lines above, the budget maximum budget cap is 4 million, and that includes both the different budget categories up to the indirect costs. Over and above the 4 million, there's a guideline on other additional funding, and these are limited in terms of to what extent you can put your budget, and it's up to the numbers that are shown there. Susan, you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so the first one is catalyst grants, and this is up to 375,000. And it includes to up at least 25 grants of between 10,000 to 15,000 dollars each. Again, the guidelines were very clear that you should be able to provide the process of how you would undertake the Catalyst grants. For the research and innovation fellowships, it's up to 600K, and up to means it could be less, it could be up to 600K, and it includes up to 15 competitive research and innovation fellowship for approximately $40,000 to cover travel, accommodation, and subsistence and research costs. And then the last additional funding line is for Epsilon's exchange up to 150,000, and it should include a budget for at least 15 exchange awards at approximately 10,000 each. I'll stop there for now, and then we will be on the lookout for any additional costs. Any questions on the chat?
Thank you very much, Hannah. So in conclusion, we're really looking forward to receiving your proposals. So remember, the deadline for your expression of interest is the 31st of January next year. So you could be busy a little bit over the holidays. And a long list will be invited to prepare a full application in April. And the full application will be submitted in the middle of next year, in June 2024. The interviews, as you can see, will be in September, October next year. So we're looking for bold, compelling research proposals, really something that's new and very bold. Make sure that you're aligning with the theory of change that's provided in the core guidelines. We're very keen on capacity building, so make sure that your consortia are constituted as quite diverse, the really wide range of expertise across the consortia. And consider whether your consortia will be sustainable and impactful in the research network. We'll have up to 6 years of funding, 5 to 6 years of funding. And during that time, we would like to see your thoughts on how to make your consortium sustainable in the long-term future. We've provided an email address for further questions. If you're not have not been satisfied with your response over here, please do send us messages, and we'll try our best to answer them as best as we can. Thank you. So I think that's the last slide that we have for the presentation. We wanted to make sure that we have enough time for your questions. We've begun to answer some of them in the chat, but do let us know if there's anything that you'd like to raise your hand for. We'll be able to do some of them. There are many people in the webinar, so we might not be able to answer all the questions, but we are committed to make sure that all the questions in the chat are responded to. So there's a question from Salome Sigeni. Is an individual organization allowed to apply, or does it have to be a consortium? This is a consortium model, so make sure that you do put your consortium together. To what extent would you consider funding clinical research facilities that have a focus on animal health, considering that some of the diseases may be of zoonotic nature? Again, we go back to there needs to be a very compelling research question, a doable program of research. So funding research, clinical research cannot be the end point, but there needs to be a research question. That was a question from Alec Evans. Alfred Kwesi Manyen, is the deadline of submitting application 31st January? This is for your expression of interest, as we've just mentioned. Right, you can refer to that again. Can an applicant who is collaborating with an African institution be the main applicant if he's based outside of Africa? So this opportunity is for researchers based in Africa. So the PI needs to be based and hosted as an institution at an institution in Africa. Could you please share the application link? Susan, where's the best place for them to get it? If you could visit our website, the Science for Africa Foundation website, you'll find the application link there. Dr. Sam Akwari? The easiest mode for sharing updates on Epsilon, again, please refer to our website for that. And if you apply, your organization will be registered. Wycliffe, we can see you. Wycliffe, could you turn off your camera? And thank you. What is the role of PSI in the core? A collaborator, advisor, program manager, etc. I'll let the director of PSI respond to that one.
Thanks. From here, yeah. So, sorry, we've got too many computers. Okay, yeah, okay. So PSI is one of the tripartite collaborative that's designed the core. So with MasterCard Foundation, Science for Africa Foundation, and PSI, and we're, I guess, taking a lead on the technical side. But that's as far as it goes. So we're really sort of part of the overall sort of program management committee, and so there is no expectation whatsoever for the applications to in any way involve the PSI. Of course, we want Africa-led applications, and that there can be partners institutes outside Africa, and there's no limitation on that from where they're from, except for there's strict limitations about the budget that can go to institutes outside of Africa. And I can't remember the exact terminology, but there's partner institutions outside Africa could get only maximum of up to 10% of the entire budget. But you could have collaborators outside of Africa who are part of the consortium but don't receive money. So that's a sort of limitation. There was a question about commercial partners. We don't yet have an explicit position on that, but my view at the moment would be that commercial partners would be acceptable as long as they did not receive any direct funding, because we are looking at one of the objectives is to have sustainable careers in the life sciences sector, and obviously the commercial sector is a key part of that ecosystem.
Thank you, Peter. Susan, there's a question on whether the support must be signed by a Vice Chancellor of the university. Could you respond to that?
Yes, thanks. I will respond to that and a few other.
Sorry, you're muted.
I've unmuted. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Judy?
we can see.
All right, thanks. So I'll respond to that question and a few other questions that I saw in the chat. The letter of support can be signed by any authorizing entity in your organization. That can be the dean, depending on the organization you are in and the structure. So it doesn't have to be the vice chancellor, but at the point of if the grant goes and is successful, then we will need the support from the highest office, that would be the Vice Chancellor. But for this particular, at this particular stage, if the Vice Chancellor is not available or may take a lot of time to sign, then your dean or any other person who can commit the organization can sign, as long as it is a valid signature. Then also, a question was asked about what is the specificities about the support letter. So the support letter should be specific, especially about what the lead institution will be contributing to the application if it is successful. For example, you may say that you are providing protected time, or you are providing the lab. What you want to see exactly is, what kind of in-kind contribution or cash contribution, financial contribution you would be lending to the program if it is successful. So that's what we are tracking, and that's why we said you would really help us if you avoided the generic I support this program. Please consider it and be specific about what exactly you're supporting with in terms of either material, time, or any other resources. So can you apply for more than one application? The answer is yes. You can apply to be a lead in one and a partner in another. So SFA, for example, can apply to be as a lead in one of the applications, that can also be included as a partner in as many applications as possible. So there's no limit to that, but of course within reason, because you don't want also to spread yourself too thin, because the application is, especially the full application, will be quite involving, and you want to consider what's the minimum number of applications you want to appear in. Then the last one, Judy, I'll answer on my time, would be if you're funded by SFA, would you still be eligible to apply, as long as you meet the eligibility criteria outlined in the call guidelines? That doesn't matter. And make sure that any grants that you have had as a lead institutions are captured in the application form as outlined. I'll pause there for now, Judy, until call upon me again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. So several people are asking how many epsilons will be funded. Initially, there will be 4. The first round will be 4 epsilons. Gelan Ayana, you've asked whether it's possible to include training for various MSc, MPH, and PhD. We very much encourage capacity building, and you need to factor that into your budget. Under the virology team, is it possible to study vectors and humans? Yes. Can northern partners like the UK be involved? Yes, but remember again, this is an opportunity for building pandemic resilience and capacity in Africa. There is a cap on how much of funding can go to a northern partner. Please again refer to the call guidelines. There's lots of questions on what type of organizations are termed research organizations. These can be universities, they can be research institutes, they could be policy bodies, anywhere that you feel that you can conduct your research, receive the right support to do your research. So Peter, I'm going to ask you to answer a few more questions as well.
Great. Thanks, Judy. We've had a few questions around the sort of the scope and the focus of the applications. So I think just to reiterate, there's what ideally we're looking for. Number one is some world-class African-led science that has an impact in 2 dimensions. One is on health problems currently, but also in terms of research preparedness for epidemic and pandemic preparedness threats. So in endemic, non-pandemic epidemic infections are not excluded, but we would want to see relevance to epidemic and pandemic preparedness at a minimum. So I think that's, will be up for the applicants to decide where to pitch that. The second key part is a strengthened and sustainable life sciences sector in Africa at two levels. One, at an individual level. So we're looking particularly to see young people with rewarding and sustainable careers in the life sciences sector. And secondly, institutional strengthening. And that is particularly the reason why we've ring-fenced the separate pot of money, which is around sort of catalyst grants and exchanges, etc. It's around making sure that there is sufficient investment and focus on individual and institutional strengthening, as well as the science, under the sort of principles that it's best to build something by doing something because it motivates people. So we're looking for good, impactful science plus sustainable careers in the life sciences sector.
Thank you, Peter. That's very helpful. Robert, to share, you're asking, can you have more than 5 partners? You may have your host institution, an additional 5 partners. So up to 6 partners within the collaboration only. Yes, 5 collaborating institutions. A similar question about collaborations with institutions outside Africa. I think we responded to that one. Yes, you may have collaborations outside Africa, but there's a cap on the amount of budget that will go to a northern institution. Hannah, could you answer the question about can SFA send the money for sub-grantees in different countries? Then the money first transferred to one country and then send the money to sub-grantees in other countries. I don't know if that's clear. Are you allowed to say, can we send the money to other countries and allow Hannah's finance to do that?
Okay, so, I mean, without jumping the gun, I think we do that where
Hannah,
there is... I'm unmuted. Susan, can you hear me? Okay.
We can hear you now.
So when a consortium is successful and it's clear that a lead institution is not able to do so, we can come in, but there has to be a clear justification on why you're not able to transfer the resources to another institution. So we discuss that at a later stage where that happens. It's rare, but yes, we do once in a while assist.
Thank you, Hannah. A question from Gelan Ayana. Can research innovation fellowships be taken anywhere in the world? And the answer is yes. Can at least one partner come from the same countries? Yes, you may have partners in the same country from different institutions. Would you take data scientists as part of a consortium? Yes, we have a thematic area in data science and data analytics. They are eligible. Will we share the video recording at the end of the presentation? We are sharing the video recording. Can research be undertaken in one country or should it be in more than one country? So we have put a cap on the number of institutions. You're allowed up to 6 institutions within the collaboration. We have not put a restriction on countries. Can we apply if we're already in partnership? You're very fortunate, Manfredi Binyet, if you're already in partnership. Yes, you may apply with partners that you're already partnering with. For an enabler of the African research, it should be taken into account that the Christmas break in many African countries is equivalent to the summer holidays. This point is taken. We do try to consider, and this is why we have pushed the date to January. But sometimes it doesn't always work in your favor. And yes, thank you for that note that we should do this at another time. Can we have a partner organization based out of Africa for some portion of the project allocation? And that's up to you if they are able to deliver a work stream, a piece of work within the period that you'd like them to collaborate with you. Well, can organizations like WHO, AFRO form a consortium and apply? So I think That's a difficult question. I'll ask my colleagues. I think we'd really like to grow the research within the organization, and it really doesn't make sense for funding to go to funders already. So we would encourage you to collaborate with organizations that are doing similar work in your context. But
yeah, I think it's good to partner. As I said, we've commercial organizations and sort of international NGOs like AFRO, etc. I think it's good to have them as part of the research and innovation ecosystem. But I think we would not want to see funding going to either of those organizations. So I think it'd be fine to include them as partners, but I think we would have a difficulty if there was an intention to send funding to commercial organizations or to big organizations like UN organizations. And in my experience, actually, it is quite difficult to send money to UN organizations, but they're often willing to be partners, and I think that would be quite acceptable and probably viewed as positive.
Thank you, Peter. We have a question from Robert Shea. He's asking is there any rank expected from the lead applicant? Maybe associate professor, professor, etc. The answer is no. We're really looking for compelling research. So early career researcher or a mid-career researcher is eligible to apply. So just going down the list, there's also a question about whether NGOs are eligible to apply. NGOs that are involved in research may apply as well. So some of them could be NGOs that are working in the policy space, and they can be part of your consortium as well. Can I clarify that we can have funded international partners as long as we have 3 African partner institutions? You may have an international partner, and as we discussed, there's a cap on the amount of funding that they can go to them. Please apply. Please refer to the call guidelines. We are running towards the end of our time. It's actually 1/2 the hour, and we have kept all your questions, and we shall respond to them. I think we will be able to collate the questions and provide answers in general once we've categorized them to all of you. So kindly refer to our website. And Susan, perhaps you want to give some background on when the responses can be available.
Okay, so thank you so much, Judy. We plan to collect this information just before Christmas and put it up on the website as much as possible. But also to say that there's another webinar, hopefully in January, because you see, we could not meet the demand of the people who wanted to attend. So depending on feasibility, we may hold another one in January. So that's the 2 updates I wanted to give. Judy, I had requested for a minute to show the application on the system. I don't know if we are time back or if I can do it another time.
I think if you can manage that in 1 minute, please go ahead, and then we'll close.
Okay, I'll request for your indulgence. I'll take just a minute. I hope you can all see. This is how your page looks like. It's a page on the application, consortia details. So when you pick the partners, the partner organizations that you want to work with. For example, I chose Science for Africa was the lead application. This is a dummy application, please. I'm not going to submit this. And then I chose PSI as should be a partner institution. I can actually edit that as we speak. It's supposed to be a partner institution. And then I chose one of the developers for our system to be the 3rd one. So I have 1 lead partner, 1 lead institution, and 2 lead institutions. So when I come to the core applicants, this is a frequently misunderstood page. You will now, for PSI, you will come and choose somebody from PSI as the core applicant for that particular organization. So in this case, I chose Philippa, who is in PSI, and because she has not responded, I can see that she's been notified, but she has not participated. And then for the next institution, which was digital science, I chose one of the partners in digital science, Mr. Gavi, but he also has not participated. So if I had more partners here, every institution would have a corresponding co-applicant on Section 10. So I wanted to draw that to your attention, and also again to reiterate that if you do not start early, the status of not notified of participation will disable you from submitting your application, even if you fill the other parts. So please have adequate time for that. And then the last thing is that because we have already said we need 3 to 6 institutions, the application is geared to that. So you will not be able to submit one institution application. It will not let you submit, and neither will you be able to add more than 5 partners for the lead. Thank you, Judy. I think I'm done.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. It was very good to see your interest in this opportunity. We look forward to receiving your proposals. Please begin to reply. Try to not wait until the last minute, because you know that grant management systems tend to be very moody on the last day. So do try and send in your send in your applications early, and we look forward to meeting to reading them. Please send in your questions. We have provided an email, and we shall respond to them as soon as we can. And for those who have to work during the holidays, we apologize for that, but the benefits coming out of your holiday work will be really worth your while. So thank you very much. And from our team here at the Science for Africa Foundation, and also at the Pandemic Science Institute in Oxford, thanks again, and all the best.